Hey guys, today's video is going to be a week 1 review of my ketamine infusion. So I had my first ketamine infusion on Tuesday and I am filming this on Thursday. So I'm going to kind of go through what the process was like to me, kind of how I felt during and after, and then kind of what my next steps are. So this first appointment was like super long. I had to do an intake first, and then I did the ketamine treatment after. And I'm used to intakes being about like an hour, where they just kind of go through your history, ask you some questions about your mental health, things you've been diagnosed with, medications you take, and just kind of go through all of that. This one took about an hour and a half, which was super long, but I also kind of liked it because the psychiatrist who runs the ketamine clinic really took the time to ask a lot of questions and really get to know me and get to know a lot about my story. So it was a lot of it was difficult to talk about. I'm talking about my childhood, talking about my current situation, talking about my mental health. So it's not like a fun thing to go through, but I appreciated that she kind of really took the time to listen to me and make me feel like she understood what I was saying and kind of believed what I was saying. So that part was what took the longest. The infusion itself was about 45 minutes. They place an IV, which is always difficult to do on me because my veins are really hard to find. But the woman did a great job and she placed my IV pretty quickly, which I was very impressed with. And then once they get you hooked up to the IV, for me, what they did is they gave me a medication that I cannot remember the name of, but it was something for heart rate. I have pretty chronic high heart rate. So they gave me something for that just so it didn't like get higher during the appointment. It was like 103, I think, when I went in. And typically you want your resting heart rate to be between like 60 and 80, but mine is always higher. But they gave me that just in case to keep it from getting too high. And then they gave me Zofran, which is a medication for nausea because the IV ketamine can make you really nauseous. You're not allowed to eat for 4 hours before your appointment, and then they also didn't want you to drink water or anything an hour before your appointment. So I hadn't eaten, and then they gave me that medication so I wouldn't feel nauseous during the treatment. Once they get you hooked up to the IV, it's pretty easy. They just kind of hooked up the bag of it's ketamine, I believe, in a saline solution, so it goes into your bloodstream directly through the IV in your arm. And for me, they started me at a lower dose, so they started me at 0.5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. This clinic, for some reason, they like to do 0.75 milligrams per kilogram, but because I had done Spravato before, which is esketamine, so it's a similar feeling, and I reacted so negatively to it, and I had really bad panic attacks when I did it, they thought it was safer to just start me on the lower dose, kind of ease me into it, see how I react to it, just to avoid me having a panic attack while I was there. I still ended up having a panic attack, which I knew was going to happen, but it wasn't terrible, and I kind of just dealt with it on my own. They came in and checked on me after like 15 minutes, and I was like crying, and my heart rate was still really high, and they were like, "You doing okay?" And I'm like, "I'm a little anxious, but like I'm usually anxious, so like it's fine." Um, Probably wasn't the greatest response, but it's the one I went with. So it wasn't terrible. It wasn't a terrible panic attack. The one that I had when I did Spravato was like really bad. Like I was hyperventilating and crying and I couldn't move. This one, like I was crying. I felt panicked, but I was like, I'm just gonna ride this one out. Um, they leave you in kind of like a dark, calm room. I was in a very comfortable reclining chair, so I got to chill out there. One of the things that was weird and I didn't know, I guess typically people aren't, and I don't know this for sure, but this is the impression that they were giving me. People typically aren't fully conscious when they are doing IV ketamine. The reason I am thinking this is because anytime the nurse came in to check on me, she was like, "Oh, you're still awake? You can talk?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just feel kind of dizzy. Like, I don't feel like sleepy. I'm just kind of dizzy right now. So I don't know if that was just because I was on the lower dose. She did say that one of the medications I'm taking, temazepam, can sometimes like reduce the efficacy of ketamine. So it's possible that I need to get a higher dose to like reach a more dissociative state in order for it to have a bigger impact, because that's the goal of the ketamine treatment, is to put you in a dissociative state, and it kind of allows your mind to reset and be able to process things differently. So processing trauma, um, thinking about how you feel about yourself, all of those things are supposed to become a little bit easier the next day and as you continue with ketamine treatments. So I was told that that you should feel a difference after the first ketamine treatment. I'm not sure how accurate this is. I'm going to say it here. This is just my experience, and my experience with one psychiatrist who does ketamine. So other psychiatrists might have a different view of it, and other people's bodies are going to process it differently than mine did. So I don't want this video to be discouraging for anyone who is interested in trying ketamine, because our brains and our bodies are so different that, especially when it comes to psych meds, people react extremely differently. She told me I should expect to feel some sort of immediate change, that maybe not that night, but the next morning, and that she described it as like I should feel lighter, like I should feel like my trauma, my depression, like all of those things aren't weighing on me so heavily. They're still there, but they're just not as heavy. I didn't have this experience, unfortunately, and statistically, ketamine has very high success rates, but about 20% of people don't respond to ketamine at all. So there is still a group of people that aren't going to respond, and it's possible that I am in that group. But it's also possible that I need more treatments and that I need a higher dose and to do it a few times before I notice any differences. Unfortunately, and this was something that they were also very surprised about, was during the treatment, I felt a million times worse. I don't know why this is. I felt similar when I did Spravato as well, but it made me feel way more depressed and way more suicidal. But I was in a safe room, in a medical facility, so even though I felt really, really bad, like I knew that I was safe and like I wasn't, a danger to myself, even though I was thinking that way. Like I was in a place where I couldn't do anything. Somebody has to drive you home from these appointments, so it wasn't even like I could do anything afterwards. So that was good. Once the treatment was over, I think I kind of leveled a little bit back out. It didn't make my depression any less bad. It didn't change my suicidal thoughts, but they weren't at the higher intensity that they were at during the treatment itself. They were kind of back a little bit closer to my baseline, still a little bit worse than my baseline, I would say, but closer. So I wasn't feeling like a million times worse when I left, thankfully. The day after treatment, treatment was Tuesday. So the day after treatment, Wednesday morning, I had a really rough morning. I am not sure if it's related to the ketamine or not, but I had a pretty bad morning. Woke up feeling very depressed, very suicidal. Ended up hurting myself. I don't know if it was related to the ketamine or not. It could just be, this is a really difficult time for me. Depression wise, this time of year has always been really hard for me. So it could just be that. So I don't want to say it's related to the ketamine because I don't know whether or not it is. So I guess my next steps is something that I've been thinking about and kind of weighing on for the past few days, trying not to make a rush decision. When I left the treatment facility and got back into the car with my husband, I was like, I never want to come back here again. I do not want to do this again. Please don't make me go back here. I have thought about it a little bit more now, and in hopes of not making a snap decision, like I wanted to that day. I did schedule a second appointment, which will be next Tuesday, and I'm going to see about if trying a higher dose makes sense, sticking with the low dose makes sense, and just kind of giving it a second chance before I decide to completely be like, nope, this doesn't work. Because I have the tendency to do that with a lot of things. If it doesn't work the first time, I'm just like, nope, this is wrong. This is never going to work. I just want to forget about it and move on with my life. So I'm trying to not do that. Um, I am going to be talking to my therapist and my psychiatrist about it as well, though, to just get their takes on it, just to see if they think that the next day, the worsening of my mood was related or not. And if they think that it was related enough for me to not go back, then I won't then I'll cancel that other appointment and I won't go back. But if they think that it's more of unrelated, other stressors going on, then I probably will go to my appointment next Tuesday just to give it one more shot, because I don't want to base my entire opinion off of the one experience that I've had with it so far. So that is it for today's ketamine update. Thank you guys so much for watching. And again, I just want to say that if you're someone who is considering ketamine treatments, I am not a professional. Please consult with someone who is a professional, who knows your case very well, and don't just go based off of my experience. My experience is going to be unique to me. Other people are going to have a different experience because everyone's brain and bodies process medications differently. And everybody, especially with a medication like ketamine, everybody is going to react very differently. It does have a very high success rate, so I do think it's still a great option for people who are dealing with treatment-resistant depression. It just might not be the right treatment for me, but that doesn't mean that it's not the right treatment for you. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave those in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. And as long as I keep that appointment next week, I will be making another video the day or two after to give just another update on how it went and how I'm feeling and if I'm going to be moving forward with it or not. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.